how you guys doing? It's your boy Beastly, back at it again with another CFB 26 video. And today, no, I'm not being hyperbolic. No, I'm not being clickbait. No, I'm not trying to engagement farm you guys. I genuinely believe this is the most dominant dynasty in CFB 26 history. And so if you learn anything new from this video or find me mildly entertaining, be sure to drop a like, comment, and subscribe. It's absolutely free and does support the channel a ton. This video is going to be me recalling, or recapping, I should say, the stats, the awards, the achievements, everything we've accomplished in this several-week dynasty across several streams, which, if you want to watch these live, I basically stream on YouTube Monday through Friday around 6 o'clock CST every single day, and on the weekends, I do stream on Twitch. So if you want to be in one of these videos and or watch how I do all this stuff with the challenges, the rebuilds, yada, 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 stop by then. But before we get into why you did what you did, what's the context, Beastly? Well, here's the context. So I have done the Nick Saban challenge. I've done so many ridiculous challenges recommended via Discord. If you guys don't know, my Discord, you get notifications for stuff. And the other perk of being in the Discord, aside from, yapping with me, you do get to vote on future streams and or future content. And one of the challenges someone recommended to me was to break the all-time coach winning record in college football. I, being the casual I am, had no idea what that was, in which a very quick Google search, I forget the gentleman's name, but there was a coach that has like 488 career wins. He coached for like 60 or 70 years. And I couldn't do that. Small issue with CFB 26, if you don't know, you can only sim 30 years. In Madden franchise mode, I believe you can sim 50 or 100 years, but specifically in Dynasty, we are hard capped at 30. So if you divide like 488 by 30, you get like 16.6 or like 16.8 wins per year. You physically can't do that. Therefore, challenge, null and void, you can't do it. Rip bozo, go on to the next one. However, if you do scroll down to the guy in second place, his name is Joe Paterno. I believe he also coached for like 50 to 60 years. He has 409 career wins. And so someone in my chat was like, hey, if you do the math, I think there's a chance. So I had to double check his math. And sure enough, he was correct. If you divide 410, which is us beating the record, by 30, the math is like 14.4, basically around 14 wins per year to even have a chance of beating his, I think, 50 or 60 year record. So that's what this is. And if you were there live, I appreciate you. It was a grind. We're talking 3 to 5, maybe even sometimes 7 to 8 hour streams, just doing this every single day. It was a fun experience, but that's a lot of yapping. Basically, what are the stats that you compiled over your several year sim? Well, let me go ahead and show you very quickly. So, head coach, Uniform University, shout out my chat, by the way, for coming up with that name for Oregon. Fits them so well. They are so hype. They're all about their uniforms, but they are no substance whatsoever. I know, shots fired. Love my Oregon audience, don't get me wrong, but the crazy Oregon fans drive me insane, as do a lot of teams. But either way, we'll cover the playbooks a bit later on with the perks and stuff. Let's go ahead and run down our awards, shall we? Our all-time coach career record is, as you guys can see, we did break the 410 we were shooting for. We got 416, and we have 10 losses. No, your eyes do not deceive you. No, your ears don't deceive you. Shout out all my audience and or listeners who are watching me in the gym, watching me in their car, watching me while they're, doing monotonous tasks. I appreciate you guys. Yes, that is 10 losses in 27 seasons, which is crazy. Easily, especially considering I'm not playing these games, the most impressive flex amongst many flexes I could possibly give for this video. We did finish with a 98% career winning percentage, which is just nutty, that we basically won almost 100% of our games. We had 27 winning seasons, which is exactly how I was able to track how many years deep into this challenge we were, because from the very first season to the very last season, we had a winning record. So winning seasons being 27 was just kind of my benchmark for how many years deep we were. We were all-time playoff record 74-3, which is astonishing. Our playoff win rate was 96.1. It's slightly lower than our all-time win rate just because I guess I had a couple bad playoff games, and their keyword is a couple. We had 24 national championships, and I will show you what a visual representation of that looks like momentarily. We won 24 of the 27 natties. We won 23 conference champions. How did you not have a conference championship, but you had more natties? Basically, one of the many years I moved myself around to different conferences. I messed it up and it turned off the conference championship, which I then fixed. But technically, this should be 24, just like the national champions is 24. But either way, that was my fault. First round picks, we were 174 of them, which is insane. We had 250 players drafted overall. That was between rounds 2 and round 7. We had 26 top 5 classes. We pretty much had a top 5 class every single year. We actually felt like it. And yeah, just pure, just believable stats. Our record versus our rivals was 39-0. We never lost to a single rivalry game the entire time, which is, amongst many stats, just insane. And yes, you heard me correctly. To make this challenge less monotonous and less tedious, to then spice things up, I basically had an agreement with my chat that every 10 years we would basically move to different conferences. So the first 10 years we played in the Big Ten, the second 10 years we played in the SEC, and the final year we played was in the ASS, aka the ACC conference, because that conference is hot garbage. However, just to make things a little fun, our final year, I then moved us to Conference USA just to play a bunch of 40 overall teams, and it was a lot of fun. Well, I'll show them stats momentarily as well, but yeah, we've bounced around, so this is not just me beating up on the Big Ten or the SEC. I pretty much beat everybody. It wasn't like I was doing cherry picking and, playing bad teams. No, I played the best of the best, and they all fell to coach Uniform University, and that's a fact. But Beastly, I hear you thinking to yourself, that's just a bunch of numbers, it's a bunch of mumbo jumbo. That means nothing to me. What does it visually look like for all my visual learners out there? Well, here's the Wall of Fame, aka the National Championship screen under the CFB History tab for this dynasty. And as you can see, from 2046 to 2051, we lost 0 games and won, 6 consecutive national championship games. And then from 2044 all the way down to 2030, that was 14 consecutive years of just winning games and winning national championship after national championship after national championship. And then early on in the rebuild between 2025 and 2028, we did win 3 of the 4 natties. So it took us a couple of years to get going, but once when we got our perks, we got our coordinators, we got things rolling, we were literally unbeatable. Very quickly, I don't want to drag this video on too long, but a little small snippet here. As you guys can see, we played a lot of coaches, right? Georgia, Ohio State, Miami, Tennessee, Duke, BYU, Notre Dame. We had a lot, Texas, a lot of representation over these 24 natties. So you would presume, Beastly, you must have played a ton of coaches. Well, if you were in the streams, you guys would know that we had a very fun game simming to the end of every season and keeping track of what coaches we played. Pretty much a vast majority of the coaches in this rebuild were basically replays. Even though there's like 20-something teams here, 4 of the coaches pretty much were on replay over and over. Very quickly, if you want to leave a comment question number 2, what were the 4 coaches you think appeared the most in this rebuild? I'll give you a second to pause the video in 3, 2, 1. The 4 most commonly played coaches in both regular season and postseason play was in no particular order. I just know the top 4. Kirby Smart, Dabo Swinney, the BYU regular coach, I think his name's Hitaki, I forget his name, and then the Duke head coach. The Duke head coach, the BYU head coach, the obviously Clemson head coach, and Georgia head coach, we played basically every single year. Dabo Swinney, I beat him so many times at Clemson early on. I forced him to move to Tennessee. I played him yearly, every single year in the SEC championship and in the regular season in the SEC, which is the reason why he didn't make that many appearances in the playoffs until a bit later on. But yeah, I destroyed him at Clemson. I made him go to Tennessee. I destroyed him at Tennessee, and then he bounced to a third school, which I think was Florida State. But either way, he was just bouncing around, could never quite really beat us, which was really funny. The other coach that I made bounce around was Kirby Smart. Now, Kirby Smart has always been a coach that does bounce around, but typically, unlike others, he doesn't bounce around until much later on. And that's what happened for us. Early on, he was a hard Georgia coach and was always Team Georgia. However, if you scroll up to the very top of this, around 2044, he does go to Michigan. Now, he probably left Georgia between Michigan and Georgia. However, I didn't really pay attention to the in-between part. I know for a fact we beat him several times at Georgia, and I know for a fact we beat him a ton at Michigan, which was the reason why he basically didn't get no playoff appearances, because everywhere he went, we followed, and we just basically kicked his ass. Then lastly, the last 2, Duke, we played a lot of Duke early on. We played Duke in 2030 and again in 2036 and 2037. But we beat Duke so bad that Duke was just, after this third beating we gave to Duke, he was just bouncing from team to team to team to team. However, even though we beat the crap out of Kirby, out of Dabo, out of the Duke head coach, there is no head coach who had more of a glutton for punishment versus us than Satake, or whatever his name is, the gentleman, the head coach of BYU. As you guys can see, BYU basically had no success the entire time we were running the stuff. And then in the 2040s, BYU starts going crazy. Back-to-back national championships, they, got destroyed. Specifically, the 56-9 blowout was pretty funny. And you would think, oh, Beasley, it's just two years, 2 natties. Not that bad. Again, not counting all the playoff or the regular season games where I know I beat him several times. But then he switches to Texas. So between 2040 and 2043, 3 of the 4 natties, he was the head coach for their teams. And so it's like, okay, you beat him 3 times in a row. That's pretty embarrassing. However, you keep scrolling up to 2049 at Texas. We beat him for the 4th time at a national championship. And for the 5th time, the final natty we just played was also against Texas. Yes, if you just count national championships, we beat Satake minimum 5 times. Possibly more. He might have went somewhere between BYU and recently with Texas. I could be wrong. He might have like a 1-year stint somewhere, but either way, we were destroying him. But when you boil it down, if you just remove Dabo Swinney, the head coach from Duke, the head coach for BYU, and the head coach for Georgia, just remove them off the board, we only really played like 3 or 4 unique coaches, which is kind of disappointing that when you sim that far into the future, the playbooks matter so significantly that the teams don't really matter. It's just who has the best playbooks, and there you go. I also think Notre Dame here got Kirby. I could be wrong. I don't actively have this in front of me, but I think after I made him leave Michigan, he might have went Notre Dame. All I know is that a vast majority of these coaches were repeats, so it was kind of unfortunate. Next, we're going to come over the history section. I'm not going to go too in-depth with all of these awards because there's like 30 different awards you could win every single year. And I don't want to drag this video on. So very quickly, I will cover a few of them. One of the awards I'm going to give myself is the Consecutive Winning Streak Award. My previous PR, my previous record was 211 consecutive simming wins. We shattered that in this Dynasty. My new PR is 251 consecutive simming wins. Again, 0 gameplay. You recruit, you can upgrade, you can do your depth chart, but then you got to sim everything out. Sim the playoffs, sim the regular, you got to sim everything. So we had 251 consecutive simming simming wins through many seasons, which is bonkers. Next, we'll cover the Heisman trophies, as you guys can see on screen. We did end up taking home 14 of these out of the 27 seasons we did sim, which is pretty nice. As you guys can see, we had a stranglehold on this award from 2033 to 2038, but we had a ton of Heismans of them. Next, I'll very quickly cover the other ones, but there's really no need to show you because it's just a bunch of walls of green like you're currently seeing. For the Unitas Golden Arm, we had 12 of them. For the Davey O'Briens, we had 21. For the Edge Rusher of the Year, we had 18. For the Chuck Bednarik Award, we had 16. For the Bronco Award, we had 16. For the Duke Walker, we had 5. For the John Mackey, we had 5. For the Lombardi, we had 18. Somehow, some way, we had 0 for the Lou Groza and 0 for the Ray Guy, which makes no sense because I actively pursued good kickers and punters this entire dynasty, but somehow we didn't win a single one of those. We won 14 Maxwell. We won 15 Walter Camp. We won 15 the Outland Trophy. We won 2 for Jim Thorpe, which again, makes no sense how we couldn't win that award. We won 14 for the Remington Trophy, won 4 awards for the Jet Award, and the last 2 was the Sean Alexander Award and the Dick Butkus Award. We both won those awards once a singular time. So it's kind of weird how some awards were so easy to win and then other awards were borderline impossible considering everybody on my team was juiced out of their mind. But again, it's a bunch of words. For all my visual people out there, what does a juice team look like? I hear you asking. Well, let me go ahead and just show you what our juice roster looks like. And keep in mind, this roster is probably one of the worst ones we've had across the 27 seasons. And I'll get into the reason why momentarily. So I'm not going to go down each individual player and each individual stat. I'm just going to briefly flash them on the screen while I yap so you guys can see it. But this team is not the best team we've ever had because my final year of doing this, I knew I had the challenge complete. And I knew because I was moving into Conference USA that there was really no need to really worry because we're going to play a bunch of bums. So I just auto-simmed everything. So everything you're seeing here is 100% CPU auto-simmed. And, you know, there's going to be a few examples I show you later on. Like, for example, with this right end, Jawan Colley over here. He is a senior, a redshirt senior with absolute maximum stats, right? With maximum abilities, right? He's 5 plat abilities. And if you look in the top right corner, he still has 32 upgrade tokens to go. So he's significantly maxed. And we have a ton of players on this roster like him and many others. But yeah, I just auto-simmed the final year. So the computer bought abilities, the computer bought stats they didn't really need, which, you know, made the team a little worse. But if you're curious what the math equates to, and if you count 98 and or 99 overall players, we had 30 of them on our roster of 85. Almost half of our roster was 98 or 99 overall players, which is just bananas when you think about it. And now we reach the segment where it's a bunch of freshmen who will never see the field because we recruited them last year and, well, we're done. So they're done. But yeah, this team was disgusting, and it wasn't even our best team we've ever had. Like, straight up, we've had much better teams in previous seasons. But very quickly, I will show you the stats we did put on the field, which were kind of disappointing because I kind of put us against Conference USA to see what's the craziest stats we could acquire. And they were really no different than the previous stats we had versus the SEC, the ACC, and the Big Ten. For starters, we averaged 66 points per game, which is just bonkers. We had 1,100 total points scored the entire season. We were just a smidge, a tick shy of 10,000 total yards of offense. We had 86 passing touchdowns, which was almost double to Pitt, which was number 2. Rushing touchdowns, we had 61, which is just insane. Yeah, this offense was wildly good. And again, I did play Conference USA opponents our final year, but these stats weren't that much difference, which is honestly kind of pathetic. Our defense, the number 1 defense, shocker, I know, gave up 8 points per game, which is not the best, our all-time best defense. I think I have a screenshot I might put on the screen now. I have unfortunately lost the screenshot, but somewhere in one of the many streams we did have a season where we averaged 6.4 points per game, which that was the best defensive performance we had across the yard. We gave up a total of 2,800 passing yards, which is basically nothing, right? We gave up 500 rushing yards, which is so far and away the best team there was. We had 100 team sacks. We averaged 6 sacks per game. We had 10 team fumbles. We had 39 interceptions. Yeah, we just basically ran away with it this year. And again, this wasn't even the best team we've ever had. If you want to go individualize and break down the team sets individually, this is what it looked like. Our QB threw for 6,000 yards, 86 TDs, 5 interceptions. Our running back, our starter, had 300 carries, 2,000 yards, and 18 touchdowns. Our backup had 200 carries, 1,200 yards, 30 touchdowns. Our third stringer had 54 carries for 280 yards and 3 touchdowns. And our quarterback had 116 carries for 256 yards and 5 touchdowns. And our fourth string, wow, I didn't realize it until I was making this video. Our fourth string running back had 25 carries for 200 yards and 5 touchdowns. We were absolutely running all over people. That's actually insane. Our starting wide receiver had 1,800 yards and 21 TDs. Our number 2 receiver had 1,500 yards and 31 TDs. He was the touchdown monster. Our third receiver had 1,000 yards and 18 TDs. Our tight end had 81 receptions for 867 yards and 6 touchdowns. And then our running backs were kind of there, but our passing game was mostly to our receivers and or tight ends. For our defense, our sack leader, Shakir Spriggs, finished the season with 38 sacks, and my other D-end had 24 right behind him. Our starting D-tackle had 18.5, and our number 2 D-tackle had 12.5. 4 of the 5 starting defensive linemen I had double-digit sacks, which is just insane. And then lastly, we'll cover interceptions. Randy Batty, another person I could just point to. As you guys can see, he's a redshirt junior, so he technically has 1 more year of eligibility. He has maxed out stats. As you guys can see, he's a couple issues with zone and a couple issues in power. But because of our perks, 1 power would uncap and 1 zone would uncap going into his senior year, allowing us to make him better. But it really doesn't matter. He's platinum everything / gold everything with 85 upgrade tokens. So he's so like done developing that he doesn't even need that extra year because our coach build is just so insane. But yeah, he's just 11 interceptions is insane. And my number 2, Shaq Simmons, had 7, 6, 4, just a bunch of sacks, a bunch of interceptions, a bunch of TFLs. Hell, our starting DN had 52 TFLs, which is just bonkers with how insane this team performed. And I've given you the stats, I've given you the accolades. Now it's time we break down the coach build, which is what I'm sure most of you have been wanting. And we'll wrap the video up there. So for starters, I'm going to get this out the way very early for the people who skipped to this portion of the video and didn't watch the previous part. This build is not doable if you don't have 2 specific perks and you play in a very specific manner. So just be warned. Again, not clickbait. Everyone can do this because I did this myself. So there you go. If you've watched my previous video on how to do the Nick Saban build, which is basically get every perk in the game, we basically just replicated that. So for all the people who have comments saying, oh, I can't do that without the pre-order bonus, oh, I can't do this, that, you can. You just don't choose to and or you don't know how to, but I assure you can. So for starters, in CEO, we do have bundle discount, which is one of the 2 most important perks in this build. You do have to buy it. It's a non-negotiable. The second perk you have to buy, which is a non-negotiable, is tier 3 of Inside Track Friends and Family discount. Basically, how these 2 perks interact is if you look at my offensive coordinator, Zach Lujan, these names are funny, but Zach, he has talent developer. My DC, Abdul Hawkins, also has talent developer. Because these 2 have talent developer, that means my talent developer is reduced price. As you guys can see for tier 3 passing game, instead of it being worth 12 points per, it's now worth 8 points per. That 4-point difference might not seem like a ton, but across every single perk, you do end up saving hundreds and hundreds of tokens, which you then can spend elsewhere. So those 2 perks are a non-negotiable. You do have to have those. The other non-negotiable perk, especially in the CEO category, is lasting impressions. Just the best perk in the game. Just buy it, right? Senior Superlatives I bought because it's better than anything Architect has, because Senior Superlatives is a 100% chance to happen, whereas Tactician/Architect is not. Dream School, terrible perk, waste of 16 points. I had this for like 12 or 13 seasons and got 6 total insta commits of 4 and 5 stars. It's a terrible perk. I knew it was a terrible perk, but chat convinced me to try to do like a mini experiment. In this experiment, it was just terrible. And the more the merrier was also a waste because I pretty much had my entire recruiting board done by week 4 or week 5, which if you do visits, typically you don't need to like hyper stack visits that early on. So these 2 perks were kind of a waste, but I had a weird number of points towards the end, which is why I bought those. The other absolute non-negotiable perks you have to have is under coaching family, tier 1, Forever Home. I was sleeping on how overpowered this perk was all year, and now for the remainder of CFB 26, this will be on every coach build I have forever. One of my biggest gripes in this game is that coordinators will leave you so much to go to be head coaching jobs elsewhere, or what happens typically for me in rebuilds, they'll just retire. They'll go to the NFL, and they'll just despawn from the league. This perk, when you read the description, goes as follows. Coordinators are less likely to leave in the coaching carousel, aka they just never leave. If you don't fire your coordinators, they will never leave. Secondly, this also stops them from going into the NFL. So they just don't magically despawn as like a 70, 80, 90, or even a level 100 coordinator. It's so good. As per usual, I buy Relationship Builder. You got to have the best pipelines in the game. I bought Strong Roots, not because I normally do this, but just because I wanted the highest chance, the probable chance of getting Dream School to trigger, because the higher base interest you have, the higher chance you have of getting the insta-commit. It didn't work, so this was a waste. And then obviously roster retention, tier 1, always buy that. So that's the CEO and program builder perks. And then for the rest of it, it's pretty simple. It's my normal build. All of base motivator 1 through 3, all of master motivator base 1 through 3 as well. Then for talent developer, it's just tiers 1 and 2 for everything. Now, you guys can see I have 1 extra tier for linebackers and 2 extra tiers for linemen. That was because I had, I think, 16 or 24 points left over, and I didn't really know where to spend it, so I just threw it here. But realistically, you don't have to buy that. Just get tier 1 and or 2 on everything, and you will be fine. Next, for base recruiter, I got tiers 1 through 3 on everything, and I got for elite recruiter, I got tiers 1 through 4 on everything. So when you have this coach build, you are, for the most part, going to win like 98% of your recruiting battles. You will still lose to Georgia. You will still lose to, Miami and a select few schools because Oregon's pipelines are terrible. They are garbage. They lack most of the good pipelines in the good states. So you will lose, again, to Georgia in Georgia or certain Florida schools in Florida. But for the most part, everyone else, the other 95 or 98% of the time, you'll get the person. With Max Master Motivator and Base Motivator and Talent Developer, you will unironically get literally hundreds of upgrade tokens a year. I could legit make 99 overall players their redshirt freshman year. I didn't do that because I wanted to keep them to their senior year for senior superlatives, but you get the point. I could mass print 99 overalls every year, and if I felt like it, which I did originally at first, but I had to stop doing it because it was kind of getting annoying, I could have sent like 40 people a year to the first round. I was actually making more first round picks, and there were first round picks available. If you guys don't know football, there's 32 picks in the first round. So what was happening was that I would send so many 99 overall players that they would be second and third round picks. I stopped doing that because, again, it was being annoying. But yeah, with this build, you can basically recruit whoever you want for the most part and develop them as long as they have any dev tree of any kind, however you want. And again, my coordinators are an integral part of this dynasty because I've had them for, I think, 20 years or 17 years. I've had them for some ridiculously long time. As you guys can see, he has Elite Recruiter, Talent Developer, and Master Motivator. My DC has Elite Recruiter, Talent Developer, and Master Motivator. Now, they don't have it crossways, right? Like my DC has Elite Recruiter for defensive perks, and he has Master Motivator for defensive perks for his defensive players. My OC obviously has it for his offensive players. But the fact that I already have the perks for everybody, and then these guys also contribute with their perks, we have this disgusting conglomerate of a stack of triple Elite Recruiter, triple Talent Developer, and triple Master Motivator that just leads to our players being unequivocally the best players every single year, cycle in, cycle out. So this build, this coach, this dynasty, I don't think you could find anything more impressive and or honestly monstrous if you tried. I do genuinely believe this is the most dominant dynasty in CFB 26 history. And so be sure to leave a comment down below if you've ever seen someone do this well, this before, with this OP of a team in a 27-ish year sample size of strictly summing the game. I think I've pretty much covered everything we need to cover. Actually, I lied, JK. There's one extra thing we did in this rebuild, which I'm going to put on screen now. To me, this is the biggest flex in CFB 26 history. I didn't know till recently that you could even get fullbacks drafted in the NFL. I know kickers and punters can't get drafted, and for some reason, I've always lumped fullbacks into that same category. And one time, 1 week, 1 year, I forget when it was, but I had a fullback get drafted in the 7th round, and I'm like, wait, chat, fullbacks can get drafted? And we all were kind of like, we didn't know that. And so the goal for the rest of the dynasty was to see if I could get a first-round fullback, like this was the 1970s, 1980s again. And Quan Gash ended up being the best fullback we've ever produced. He was an athletic center that I moved to fullback. He's 6'2", 319 pounds. Dude was an absolute legend. He had like 88 speed, 96 strength, like high 80s/low 90s for all the blocking stats. The dude was a dog, had like 85 carrying. One of the national championships, we specifically went in and called fullback dive with him to do some William Perry stuff, and watching that man just run through people was one of the top 5 moments in the entire dynasty for real. And even though Quan Gash didn't get a first round pick status, I still think it's a W that I was able to get a fullback to be a second round pick, something that would never happen in real life, but we were able to replicate in game. So that's probably, if not the highlight of the entire rebuild, one of my top 5 favorite highlights of the whole rebuild. Now, with that, all that being said, let's go ahead and give our shout outs, shall we? As always, I hope you have a wonderful morning, evening, night, afternoon, or day, depending on whatever time you watch my content in the future. Like, comment, subscribe on YouTube, give me a follow or sub on Twitch. I'd greatly appreciate that. And if you can, please become a member. Memberships support the channel a ton. Shout out to all you beautiful bastards on screen right here. Shout out to Leon, by the way, first member of the fam to reach 12 months, aka 1 year of being a member. I appreciate you, Leon, an OG amongst OGs. And shout out to everybody else who is here. I appreciate you guys. If you guys are curious, members get early access to all my content, whether it's a day early, a few hours early, a week early, a month early, yada, yada, yada. You get the picture. Early access to all my content, special privileges in the Discord and in the live streams with votings for stuff and you know, much, much more. So if you can become a member, special shout out to all you guys on screen right here, all my goats. And yeah, guys, I will see you in the next one. Deuces.